because I refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day.
Oscar Bevis, IFL TV, proudly sponsored by Blast. A bit of a star-studded York Hall today. Roy Jones Jr. bowls through the door, and of course, Mr. Darren Barker.
Mate, I just said to Roy then, I said, look, I can't help but blow smoke up your ass, but I'm buzzing that you know I am. Do you know what I mean? He come over to me and, hey, how you doing, Darren? Good to see you. I'm like, fucking Roy Jones. It's incredible. In a venue, this is where I boxed most, Oscar. I boxed most as an amateur here. The venue I boxed mostly at as an amateur and as a pro. So I love coming back to York. Obviously, I was at the Repton, stone's throw away from here. So always good to be back.
I feel like it's one of them where you have to have watched a fight here when it's got that cauldron atmosphere, say like a southern area. You have to have watched the fight here like that to understand it.
Yeah, I agree, mate. The one that springs to mind straight away for me, and you might be able to see this on YouTube, I'm not sure, but it was Courtney Fry versus David Hay. It was in the ABAs, I think. Maybe the Londons or the ABAs, something like that, juniors or seniors. Telling you now, you're never beating it. It was the greatest atmosphere I've ever experienced. Like, it gives me goosebumps even thinking about it. If it is on there, check it out. David A, Courtney Fry, incredible.
Well, that's my tea time viewing later then. Thanks for that. Jordan was meant to be on the show tomorrow at York Hall, but he's not now. Can you kind of just tell us the goings on?
I've struggled to get hold of him if I'm honest. I've spoken to his missus. I think something's happened in the family or a friend or something, and it's not like Jordan. He'll fight with 2 broken legs. So my thoughts are with him. I hope he's all right. This was only yesterday, so I've had to pick some tickets. The life of a manager, I've had to pick some tickets up off of his missus and drop them back down here. So yeah, I hope he's all right. He's getting married in 2-3 weeks' time in Mexico, so I hope he's in the right frame of mind, etc., to tie the knot, and hopefully he'll be back better than ever. Hopefully around June time.
Yeah, of course, we will send our love to Jordan, big friend of the IFL TV channel. Let's talk about what's going on Saturday. Joyce, Zilly Zhang. Is it one of them fights where it's just 2 immovable objects, so there kind of has to be violence on Saturday night?
Yeah, I think so. But look, it's a fight I fancy Joyce heavily. I think he takes care of business. He's like the best. How can I say this without sounding disrespectful? Like when you watch Joe, you just think he's beatable, but his nickname's so correct. He's just a juggernaut. He's a beast, isn't he? He's an absolute beast. He gets tagged. He keeps coming forward. He keeps letting his hands go. Tough man to beat. I fancy he comes through this, and no doubt we'll hear him screaming Anthony Joshua's name, and rightly so. I think there's sort of fights that he should be in now. He's thereabouts, isn't he? So I expect him to do the business and start screaming the big names.
You see why Joe might be a little bit annoyed with the ongoings when you look at the fact that Fury and Usyk is static still at the moment. Dubois now been pushed in line when he's beaten Daniel previous. Filip Hrgovic is even before him. Can you see why Joe's probably standing there and like, yeah, do you know what, this is a bit annoying now? Because he was always he's not the loudest man anyway, but he was always kind of very hush about it. But I can see maybe the last couple of months he's going to be like, you know what, this is pissing me off now.
Yeah, look, I understand it from both sort of corners, if you're honest. I would be equally as frustrated if I was Joe. But I do get it. Though he's thereabouts, he's just behind that leading crop, isn't he? And if you are one of the leading crop, you're going to sort of sit on your hands and wait for those big fights. So I get it. I understand it. He's a fighter, and I like his ambition and his desire to want to get in there with those big guys and those big guys only. Patience in this game is required. From a pro. An early novice pro, to a seasoned champion, you need patience. You use Jordan as an example there. fight now has been cancelled and you've got to sort of sit on your hands and wait and bide your time, and it's frustrating, and it will be for Joe, but good things come to those who wait and do show that element of patience. So I'm sure he'll get his opportunities. There's a lot of noise from him and the people behind him, and usually people in boxing eventually, not all the time, but they get what they want.
Obviously, we've been asking a lot of people. Now there's been a lot more noise around Joe Joyce and Anthony Joshua. It's very split down the middle, but then it's very split down the middle in the sense of whether you ask people kind of on AJ's side of things or you ask people on Joe's side of things. It is a really good fight, and would you say it's a 50-50 fight?
Look, I this is no allegiance at all with my Matchroom association or Anthony, knowing Anthony, but I do have Anthony Joshua favourite because he's proved himself at that level, whereas Joe hasn't. I don't think yet that elite level. But I would be far from shocked if Joe Joyce was to beat Anthony Joshua. I wouldn't be blown away by it. It ain't far off a 50-50, but it's a fight where I still do favour Anthony Joshua. What did you make of Anthony's performance against Jermaine Franklin? Look, do you know what? Right, I understand the frustration. I do, because I'm.
Is it because everyone's begging for that whole, I'll put it in like quote marks, Joshua of old, essentially?
Yeah, and look, the Joshua of old is what we all want to see. Look, okay, if I go back 2,000 years, right, people sat in the Colosseum because they didn't want to see a gladiator outpoint a fucking lion. Do you know what I mean? They want to see blood. You want to see explosive, brutal knockouts, and that's what the old Anthony Joshua brought. So I get it. I was left a little frustrated. I'm not going to lie, because I wanted to see that. I didn't expect to see it, if I'm deadly honest, because I knew how good Franklin was. But from a boxing analyst point of view and a boxing purist point of view, there was a lot to like from that performance. I thought the footwork, going backwards certainly was good. The way he navigated himself back to the centre ring when he was getting pushed back. I thought the shot picking and shot selection was good, though I feel he could have turned his hip through the shots more and got more power and leverage on that right hand, certainly. But, for someone who's at that later end of their career, I thought it was a very disciplined performance. I remember using myself as an example. It's very easy to sort of, because you become a seasoned pro, to sort of switch off on what really matters, and that's hitting and not being hit, sticking to your boxing. And you just get a bit comfortable and you sit in front of your opponent, you have your hands high, you're sipping and sliding and you're letting your hands go. So for him to do that, remain disciplined throughout the performance, I thought was impressive. I did a little piece with The Zone, a little article, and I do feel a knockout win will come. I don't think he can sort of stay away from that natural aggression. I think eventually he will get stuck in, and we will see a knockout.
We've heard now that, AJ put on his story on Instagram that he won't be fighting until December. Obviously, I know Eddie said that he's going to come out and say a piece. We don't know kind of what's behind that yet, but do you think, as a fighter who was looking like he needs a bit of momentum, wait until December kind of sets you a bit back to square one? Like, we need to see Joshua out pretty much in camp in the next week or 2 weeks or so. Yeah,
I don't know if there's something bubbling. I have no idea. Actually, I don't have a clue. But
did you see that talk? Yeah, what Simon Jordan said? Obviously, I don't want to.
I did see that, and I got to admit, I was buzzing. I don't know. It must be, if that is the case, there's obviously a contract and a clause in place where no one can fight, because it will obviously a defeat ruins that, doesn't it? So.
Should we get excited?
Well, I hope so. Like, it would be for someone with the intelligence, if you like, of Simon Jordan to say something like that, and it not be, him not to be quite excited himself by it, would be rather silly, I think. So yeah, I hope that is the case. I do like what I was hearing before about AJ being busy, like you've just said there, one in the summer, then go again at the end of the year. I think that's brilliant. I think activity is key, especially when you get into this later stage in your career. You want to keep that time and you want to get that distance, and you get that by being under the bright lights and being busy. So look, secondary to him being active, it would be that little tournament. That would be blinding.
Mate, fingers crossed. Just one more thing on a football front. Obviously, I know you're very good pals with Frank. How good is it to see him back in the dugout? Not the result we wanted last night, but to see a man who bleeds Chelsea blue in charge.
And do you know what? Like, it cringes me out a little bit, but I'm only going to say this just because you've just mentioned him there. Yeah, not to name drop, but I texted him because I was buzzing that he was back. I just wanted him to know, like, you know, buzzing you're back. And he texts back saying, "I'm fucking buzzing, mate. It's great to be back, blah, blah." And the reason I'm telling you this is because that's what you want to hear. Do you know what I mean? He's buzzing, you know, he's genuinely buzzing to be back at the club. He's got a tough job. I mean, especially now after that 2-0 defeat to Real Madrid, spoiler alert if you ain't watched it already. In patches, I thought we were good, but, you know, what you're playing for now, that's it. That's it now. I think you summed it up quite well there. You know, for these players, then they're like you say, they're friendlies really in the league. What's the aim? Europe's kind of out of the question now. Even the crappy cup. So it's that Champions League 2-0 down now. So what is the ambition for Frank and the team and the club to finish strong and get a bit of momentum going into next season? Yeah, it obviously won't be Frank. I wouldn't think in charge next season, but if he finishes strong, I don't know. Look, I just hope they, you know, string a few results together. Who do you fancy to win the league?
City, of course.
Yeah.
Coming into form at the right time. Sorry, Coog.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that. I like the amount of stick I will get from Arsenal fans if they win it. It's not even worth living.
Bricks in the pockets and I'm in the Thames. Darren, top man.
Refuse to not be first.
Do we do enough? Well, I never shut up about it.
It must have been about 16, 17. We nicked their guilt rings. Right, the bouncer's guilt ring.
This is no good for me. That's the reality. If you want the honest truth, and I see it every day,